Step onto any commercial airplane anywhere in the world, and you'll notice something consistent about the cabin crew. There's a certain uniformity to how they're dressed. The tailored jackets, the polished appearance, the professional demeanor. But one accessory stands out more than anything else: the scarf. Whether it's draped elegantly around the neck, tied in a neat knot, or folded into a perfect triangle, scarves have become one of the most recognizable symbols of air travel. They appear on crews from every major airline across every continent, yet few passengers ever stop to wonder why. Why specifically scarves? Why not ties, necklaces, or no accessory at all? The answer involves decades of aviation history, marketing strategy, and cultural shifts in how we think about travel and service. To understand why scarves became so ubiquitous, we need to travel back to the earliest days of commercial aviation. When planes first began carrying passengers in the 1930s, flying was an expensive, risky proposition. The aircraft themselves were unreliable. The experience was uncomfortable. Passengers were genuinely nervous about safety. Airlines understood this anxiety and responded strategically. They hired nurses as flight attendants. This wasn't a coincidence. Putting medical professionals in the cabin reassured passengers that they were in capable hands. These early uniforms resembled nursing or military attire, so functional, serious, and authoritative. The message was clear: you're in good hands. But aviation changed dramatically. By the 1950s and 1960s, jets became faster, more reliable, and more comfortable. Flying transformed from a frightening novelty into an accessible luxury. This period became known as the golden age of aviation. Airlines competed fiercely, but not just on routes and ticket prices. They competed on glamour, image, and the entire flying experience. This was when airlines realized they needed to appeal to passengers' desires for sophistication and style, not just safety. They began hiring fashion designers to create elegant uniforms. Scarves emerged as the perfect solution. They added color and visual interest without requiring complete uniform overhauls. They projected elegance, they looked modern, and they were relatively inexpensive to implement across entire crews. But aviation changed dramatically. By the 1950s and 1960s, jets became faster, more reliable, and more comfortable. Flying transformed from a frightening novelty into an accessible luxury. This period became known as the golden age of aviation. Airlines competed fiercely, but not just on routes and ticket prices. They competed on glamour, image, and the entire flying experience. This was when airlines realized they needed to appeal to passengers' desires for sophistication and style, not just safety. They began hiring fashion designers to create elegant uniforms. Scarves emerged as the perfect solution. They added color and visual interest without requiring complete uniform overhauls. They projected elegance, they looked modern, and they were relatively inexpensive to implement across entire crews. One of the primary reasons scarves remain so central to flight attendant uniforms is branding. Airlines operate in an intensely competitive industry. They need passengers to recognize and remember them. Uniforms, particularly visible elements like scarves, serve as mobile advertisements. When passengers see a flight attendant, they see the airline. The scarf is the most distinctive element that can be easily customized and changed without redesigning the entire uniform. A navy suit becomes memorable when paired with a bright red scarf. A simple blazer gains personality with a patterned necktie. Airlines leverage this strategy intentionally. Many incorporate cultural symbols, national colors, or traditional patterns into scarf designs. Airlines from Asia might use intricate patterns inspired by local textile traditions. Middle Eastern carriers often incorporate elegant, culturally significant designs. These choices accomplish multiple things simultaneously. They create visual distinctiveness, celebrate national identity, and make the airline memorable to passengers. Beyond marketing, there's genuine psychology behind the scarf choice. Airlines want flight attendants to project specific qualities to passengers: approachability, calm, professionalism, and trustworthiness. A scarf accomplishes this more effectively than many people realize. Fashion and design experts understand that scarves soften the appearance of formal uniforms. A strict business suit can feel cold and intimidating, but adding a scarf introduces movement, color, and warmth around the face. When something draws visual attention upward toward the face, it naturally creates a warmer, more welcoming impression. During customer interactions, this matters tremendously. Flight attendants deal with anxious passengers, demanding situations, and the general stress of air travel. A uniform accessory that projects friendliness while maintaining professionalism becomes valuable. The scarf strikes that balance. It says, "I'm here to help and I'm professional simultaneously." The practical benefits of scarves are often overlooked, but they're genuinely relevant. Aircraft cabins maintain cold temperatures for multiple reasons: passenger comfort preferences, fuel efficiency, and the natural cooling effects of high-altitude flight. Cabin crew members work in these cold environments for extended periods. A scarf provides modest warmth without requiring a bulky jacket or sweater. It's a functional choice disguised as a fashion statement. There's also historical precedent for scarves serving purposes beyond decoration. In earlier eras of aviation, before modern safety equipment became standard, flight attendants received training on improvised uses for uniform components. A scarf could potentially function as a temporary bandage, a sling, or provide some protection in emergency situations. While modern aircraft have comprehensive safety systems making these improvised measures unnecessary, the tradition persists partly because of this practical history. From a business perspective, scarves offer flexibility that complete uniform overhauls don't provide. If an airline wants to modernize its image or refresh its branding, changing scarf patterns or colors is economical and relatively simple. The rest of the uniform can remain largely unchanged, keeping costs down while still achieving a visual update. This adaptability has helped scarves maintain relevance even as fashion trends and uniform styles have evolved over decades. When you board your next flight and notice a flight attendant's neatly tied scarf, understand that you're looking at far more than decoration. That scarf represents over 70 years of aviation history. It's a branding tool, a psychological design choice, a practical garment, a symbol of national identity, and a connection to an era when flying felt glamorous and special. That small piece of fabric carries enormous significance in the history of commercial aviation. The scarf tells a story about how airlines think about their image, how they communicate with passengers, and how they balance professionalism with approachability. It's a fascinating example of how even simple design choices cascade through an entire industry and become iconic symbols recognized worldwide. Thank you for exploring this slice of aviation history with us. Subscribe to discover more fascinating stories hiding in plain sight, and let us know what topics you'd like us to investigate next. Stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.